Good morning. My name is Brittany Crawford, and I'm the manager for the Virtual Genealogy Fair. You just heard from the United States archivist, David Ferriero, and I also would like to welcome you to our 2018 Virtual Genealogy Fair. Before we begin our 6 sessions, I have 3 helpful tips on how to participate with the chat and access the captioning handouts. Because we are broadcasting live, you can log into the YouTube chat with other family historians and then type in comments and questions. Speakers will answer chat questions at the end of their session during question and answer periods. For live captioning, find the link provided on this page and open in a separate browser window. For handouts, find the link provided. All fair video presentations and handouts will remain available on the fair's webpage. I will now turn it over to Andrea Matney, the coordinator of the Virtual Genealogy Fair.
Thank you, Brittany, and welcome everybody. I love seeing everybody online. I'm the one who's been chatting with you so far, and Brittany and I will both be on chat. So my name is Andrea Matney, and we'll also be the persons who are doing the questions. So you'll hear these disembodied voices at the end of each session when you're asking your questions. So let's get right started. This is session number 1 of the Genealogy Fair. This lecture is for all skill levels and entitled Calling All Citizen Archivists, Getting the Most Out of the National Archives Catalog. Our speakers are Meredith Doviak and Suzanne Isaacs. They will discuss how to use the National Archives Catalog for genealogy research and how to participate in our citizen archivist projects. Please.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Meredith Doviak. Along with my colleague Suzanne Isaacs, we are the community managers for the National Archives Catalog. Our catalog is our online portal to the records held at the National Archives, and our job is to introduce you to our catalog, help you learn more about it, how to research within it, and also learn about the ways you can contribute to it. As community managers, we encourage communication and participation with our records. We work to get information out to users, but we're also taking information in. We look to learn about what people are researching online, records that are popular for research, and to find ways to let people know what is available at the National Archives. Many of you might already be familiar with our catalog and have used it for your research. Today, we will introduce you to the catalog, but we're also going to focus a bit more on methodology. We'll talk about the hierarchical arrangement of records at the National Archives and how the catalog reflects that hierarchy. We'll also share tips and tricks for searching the catalog, as well as show you around some records that might be helpful for you in your research. And we'll finish up by talking about our Citizen Archivist program and ways you can get involved to increase access to historical records. The National Archives Catalog is our online portal to the records held at the National Archives and information about those records. It's our main way of describing our holdings so you can find out about what we have. The catalog is also how we provide access to electronic records and digitized versions of holdings, so it's a fabulous resource, even if you're unable to visit a facility in person. Now, the important thing to understand is that only a percentage of our holdings are actually available online. Not every page of records we have at the National Archives is in our catalog. The National Archives holds about 14 billion pages of records, and our catalog has about 58 million digital objects in it. Digital objects are scans of individual pages or photographs, individual sound recordings, or motion picture films. So 58 million digital objects is quite a lot, but it's really a drop in the bucket compared to what we have as a whole. Our catalog also searches across multiple National Archives resources at once. So performing a search will often retrieve digital files of records, record descriptions, but also web pages, blog posts, and presidential library websites. The other exciting feature of our catalog is that it allows you to participate in enhancing historical records through tagging, transcription, and commenting. So first, I want to explain how records are organized or arranged at the National Archives. We call this record hierarchy. Understanding the hierarchy of the types of descriptions we're talking about will help you get a feel for how records are organized and will also help you search for and identify them when you see them in the catalog. And when you find a document of interest, it can help you find more like it. When I first started working at the National Archives, someone told me that we are the nation's filing cabinet. I've always liked that description and that comparison, and I think it's helpful to visualize how we organize records. At the very top of our hierarchy, we have record groups. Each record group comprises the records of a major government entity, usually a bureau or an independent agency that created or maintained these records. For example, record group 255 is the records of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA. It might be helpful to think of a record group as an entire file cabinet. It has many different drawers and folders and items within those drawers, but the records are united by the federal agency that created or maintained those records. It's the largest bucket and a very high-level grouping of records. Most record groups include records of any predecessors of the organization. A few combine the records of several small or short-lived agencies having an administrative or functional relationship with each other. An example of this is Record Group 76, records of boundary and claims commissions and arbitrations. Every record group has a number and a title. The number assigned reflects the order in which it was established by the National Archives. We also may shorten it to RG, so Record Group 566, records of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, may be referred to as RG 566. Another thing to note is that records within one record group are not always found in the same location. The National Archives is not just in Washington, D.C. We have various regional archives and presidential libraries across the country, and records within a record group may be held at one or more of these locations. A collection is similar to a record group, however, it is not a product of a federal agency. You'll find collections at the presidential libraries where donors may give their accumulations of documents that were not created as part of their work for the federal government. The next level in our hierarchy is series, which further organizes records of a government agency. You can think of a series as a drawer within a file cabinet. Records that have the same function or were created by the same activity are in a series together. An example of a series is mission photographs taken during the Space Shuttle program 1981 to 2011, which is part of Record Group 255, Records of NASA. A series can be one box, and it can be thousands of boxes. We'll show you how to figure this out when looking at a description in the catalog. 95% of our records are described at the series level. This means you can find out basic information about the records, including how big it is, from a few linear inches or thousands of linear feet, from its description in the catalog. You can also find out where records are located. I mentioned earlier that we have 58 million digital objects in our catalog, and that number is growing every week. Since we have an estimated 14 billion pages of records at the National Archives, which is also growing all the time, you won't find everything digitized, and it's important to know where to find those records and how to contact the reference unit for more information. A file unit is our next smaller level in our hierarchy. You can think of file units as folders within a drawer. They're not always just one folder. Sometimes the records may need to be housed in multiple folders, or a file unit could even be a bound volume. More and more records are being digitized at the file unit level. This means the entire folder is digitized, and it can be rather large. An example of a file unit is STS-47, which was the 50th Space Shuttle mission of the program. An item is the lowest level of description we have. It represents an individual archival record and all the pages that make it up. Items can be letters, memos, reports, or photographs, or they could be sound recordings or films. For example, on this slide, this photograph of astronaut Mae Jemison is one item within the file unit STS-47 from the series Mission Photographs Taken During the Space Shuttle Program, which is part of Record Group 255, Records of NASA. You can always see this record hierarchy here in our catalog. When you're looking at a description, you'll notice the hierarchy in the upper left-hand corner. This shows you where the item lives within the hierarchy that I just discussed. Each level is a link, so clicking on each of these links will allow you to back up to the record group or series or file unit where you can find more information. For instance, if you want to find more records like the one you're looking at, back up to the file unit or series, and you could find similar records. So let's talk about what's in our catalog for genealogists. Our catalog is not a genealogy database, so for the most part, you're not going to be able to type in a name and find records for your ancestor. That's not how our records are described, although we know that many genealogists would find that helpful. When we describe our records, we're ensuring that our holdings fit into an archival hierarchy. Our records are described with a title and a summary called a scope and a content note, which would not necessarily include all the names within a record. There are names within records, but we need to read them to discover them. So you can think of our online catalog as a place to supplement your research. You have to think about how your ancestor interacted with the federal government. Did they serve in the military? Would they have appeared in a court case? Did they apply for a pension or receive a bounty land warrant? Our records are records made for or by the US federal government, so we're not going to have state, county, municipal, or church records. This means we won't have driver's licenses or marriage licenses. Those are issued by the state. But we will have naturalization records, military records, federal personnel records, letters written to presidents from citizens. Most of our records are at least 20 to 30 years old. Since 95% of our records are described at the series level, as we continue to accession new records, our goal is to maintain that level of 95% described. This doesn't mean that everything is digitized and available in our catalog, but it does mean that you'll have insight into what records are available, where records are located, and which reference unit you can contact for more information. Since the holdings of the National Archives are growing all the time, and we're adding more digital objects to our catalog every week, you're likely to find something new every time you search. So now I'll turn it over to Suzanne, who will walk you through some searches in our catalog.
Hello. You can reach the catalog via archives.gov under Research Our Records section. The link is on the top left. Or you can just go to catalog.archives.gov. This takes you directly to the landing page of the catalog. Here's an example of the landing page. Each time you go there, on the page you'll see a different background, an image from our catalog. Sometimes they're zoomed in and they look a little artistic. If you want to explore the image, click on the link at the bottom right corner. For this webinar, I'm going to use screenshots of our catalog so that we have illustrations of each page in the webinar slides. So let's start with a search of George Washington, and you can type George Washington into the search box in the middle of the page. The search results gives you so much information. I want to make it less overwhelming. The default setting shows you everything, including on the middle of the page information that can be found on our website, archives.gov. These are not catalog records, but blogs, articles, and pages about the subject. You can click on the underlined heading to learn more. By default, 20 results are displayed on the results page. To change the number of results, go to the results per page and drop down arrow. So across the top of the page, there are some simple filters for your results. Available online if you're only interested in records that you can look at online. Web pages if you only want those web pages from archives.gov and not catalog descriptions. Documents if you only want textual records. Images if you only want photographs and graphic records. And videos if you only want motion picture records. But let's look at the filters on the left. They'll be your friends when you're doing your searches in the catalog. Use one or more of the filters if you know what kinds of records or the date range or a location where you want the records to be found. As you might expect, different combinations of the filters will give you different results. I want to caution you that the date range filter might be a bit misleading, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in an example. Another thing to look for in these results is the National Archives identifier. We also call it a NAID. You'll hear a lot of people talking about NAIDs. This is a unique number given to every description in the catalog. Keep a list of the NAIDs of descriptions that you're interested in when you research. Then you can type the number in the search box and retrieve the description again. So we're going to do another example for genealogists. In the top left search box, you can type in a new search. And let's look, say you know your ancestor fought with the Wisconsin Volunteers Regiment in the Civil War. So you could go ahead and put that in the top box. And you want to click on the magnifying glass or hit enter. And now we're looking at the search results. The top few descriptions are probably the best hits. I can use the filters on the left to refine my searches to maybe I know I want textual records or maybe a location of where I want to go see these records. So if I only want to see records that are found in our College Park, Maryland location, I would focus on that and see if there are any records available. So let's dive into the first description on this list and see what it looks like. So we can see there's lots of information in this description, and then we can find out what to expect from these records. How are the records arranged in the box? Are they arranged alphabetically, chronologically? Are these records restricted? This means, can I physically see these records if I came in person to research? And dates, the dates that they cover. The scope and content note, like Meredith mentioned earlier, gives description of these records. And we can go further down. And the extent is really important on this list. You want to know how big it is. Is it 1 inch or is it 5,000 linear feet? This is only half a linear inch. And it makes a big difference to know how long it's going to take to research them. And finally, where are these located? This one isn't found online, but in our regional location in Chicago. You can visit in person or use the contact information in the bottom of the page to contact the reference staff to ask a question and order copies. So another thing that's great for genealogists, they're called alien files. They're also known as A files, and these records of aliens registered in the United States between 1940 and 1944. They contain all records in any active case of an alien that's not yet registered as they pass through the United States immigration and inspection process. They might have even been created without any action taken by the alien. For example, if the Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, initiated a law enforcement action involving the alien. There are 2 sets of A files, the National Archives at Kansas City and the National Archives at San Francisco. They're found in Record Group 566, Records of the U.S. and Immigration Services, Citizenship and Immigration Services. Kansas City has 792,000 of them in the catalog, and San Francisco has over 251,000 and more. And we're looking at the second series here from Kansas City. So I'm going to click on that one. In the middle of the page, we can see that you can see where it says includes. This tells you how many files are attached to the series. You can click on the blue text to see the list of file units, or you can click on the blue box to search for a particular name within the series. I recommend searching within the series for a series this size. Records may not have been added to the catalog chronologically or in alphabetical order, so scanning page by page might not be helpful. For this example, I'm just going to click on the blue text to begin just looking at the records for this discussion. From this list, we can see thumbnails that have thumbnails in the boxes that say file unit. This means that the descriptions do not have images of records. So let's go to the first file and see what we can find. As I mentioned, these particular file units do not include images of the records, but you can see that there are some nice details in here. If you'd like a copy of the record that does not have images attached, look at the contact section at the bottom of the description and reach out to that reference unit. Be sure to share the NAID of the records you are interested in. Another great resource is carded records showing military service of soldiers who fought in the volunteer organizations during the American Civil War. Sometimes our series are very long, they have very long titles. And the dates are 1890 to 1912. There are more than 988,000 file units. And here's an example of where the date note is important. The date listed for this series are 1890 to 1912, and that's not the Civil War period. But the date note tells us that although the series were created during 1890 to 1912, it documents the service of volunteers during the Civil War. So that's why if you did a date search and just filtered for the dates, these Civil War records may not come up because the dates that are listed are 1890 to 1912. So keep that in mind. So let's do a search within this series by clicking on that blue box. The upper left search box, there are some wildcard symbols. You want to take those out and type in the name Taylor and hit enter. There are nearly 4,000 file units for us to look through. So it's a lot. So if you happen to know a first name, you might want to do your search as not just Taylor, but Taylor and George. It'll bring back a much more reasonable number of hits. Do you see the thumbnails of the images? This indicates that the records are scanned in that description, so you'll be able to actually look at each page. Another series of records that might be of interest are carded records showing military service of soldiers who fought in Confederate organizations, 1903 to 1927. Again, there's a date note on here, and that'll tell you that they're Civil War records. If you're looking for information about someone who served in the Navy, deck logs or logbooks are a good resource. These are chronological entries documenting the daily activities of a ship. Some individual names are included, usually if they did something worthy of making it into this log. But it's a great way to add a detail about your family member, chronicling where the ship was and what they were engaged in during a tour. Each file unit represents a month on each ship, and there are about more than 36,000 entries online, and we're digitizing more every single month. But even better than just this entry here is we've created a website that lists all the ships that have been digitized. So you click on a ship's name, and it'll bring you directly to the catalog and show you everything that has been digitized. Please note that they're not in date order on this list, so you should look through everything if you're trying to find a specific date. Primarily, the ships that have been digitized at this point are from the Vietnam era. If your ship is not on the list, go back to the main landing page I just showed you, and it has a contact email where you can request your specific ship. I'm going to turn it back over to Meredith.
Okay, as you saw from Suzanne's searches in the catalog, you can enter one or more keywords in the basic search box. The system will retrieve results from the catalog records, from archives.gov, and the presidential libraries, and present them together in a results list. Here's a quick reference for the most common types of search expressions and operators that you can use to help you with your searches. This information is available on our website, and the link here is shown on the slide. You can use Boolean operators and, or not. For example, Harry and Truman will return results with both the term Harry and Truman. Truman, not Harry, will return the results containing Truman, but not containing Harry. We find the most important search, and the one we use most often, is exact phrase searching using quotation marks. So this looks for the exact phrase you enter inside quotation marks. There's also an advanced search feature that gives you additional options to narrow your search. At the top of any screen in the catalog, there's an advanced search link directly to the right of the search box. In the advanced search, you can search by record group, location, tags, type of archival material, etc. We've recently updated our catalog guide for genealogists webpage. Here you'll find more information about catalog records that are of interest to genealogists and family historians. It contains tips for searching by names or by topic. It also contains links to additional helpful resources and some frequently asked questions. One of the questions we receive often is about searching for an individual's name. I mentioned earlier that in most cases, you won't be able to type the name of your ancestor into the search box and find records related to them, but there are some tips for searching for an individual's name. You can search on the person's full name in first name, last name order. You can search on the surname only. You can search on variant spellings of the surname or on variant spellings of the first name, including any Americanized versions. While most descriptions in the catalog do not include the names of individuals in that record, our holdings might still have records about your ancestor. If you know an individual participated in a particular event, search for that event and look within the records for your ancestor. As many of you know, we have several partnerships with organizations who digitize our records and make them available along with their proprietary transcriptions for a fee on their websites. Then, after an embargo period, typically 5 years, we're able to upload them into our catalog. Some things about these partnerships that are important to know. Most partner images are digitized from microfilm, and they're the best copies available. While we receive some keyed metadata with the images from our partners, we do not receive the transcriptions. There are hundreds of millions of images that have been digitized by our partners, and we're working to add those images to our catalog. We currently have more than 42 million partner images in our catalog. We do have a long-term strategy for digitizing records, and the best way to find out about what records are being digitized is to consult our webpage, which is located at archives.gov/digitization. There you can find a list of records available in our catalog or through our partners, as well as our digitization strategy and current partnerships. Typically, records are prioritized for digitization based on the level of interest from researchers, the age of records, or those with the most straightforward metadata. We're also working to meet yearly goals. This Digitized by Partners webpage contains a list of all microfilm publications and original records that have either been partially or wholly digitized by the partners, and it's updated when new materials are available. Here is a close-up of that page. You'll notice that some of the hyperlinks have a little box with an arrow following the title. This indicates that the link is taking you to the website of one of our partners to access these records. When they no longer have the box with the arrow following the title, this indicates that the records are now available in our catalog, and that link will take you directly to those records. We've added a few red arrows on this slide pointing to records that are now available in our catalog. And now I'll turn it back to Suzanne, who will introduce our Citizen Archivist program.
Hi. As a bit of background, in April 2010, the Archivist of the United States, David Ferriero, introduced the concept of Citizen Archivist as a way to create an online experience that connects the public to the mission of the National Archives. We recognize that what you as researchers learn from our records is valuable, and we want to create ways to capture and harness that knowledge and information, adding value to the records while also making it easy, intriguing, and fun. This is our Citizen Archivist dashboard located on our website, archives.gov. From here, you can find out more about our crowdsourcing activities and opportunities. You can learn how to get started tagging and transcribing. And you can do all of this from the comfort of your own home, regardless of your physical location. Join us by signing up for a National Archives Catalog account. You can register from links on this page or by clicking on Register at the top of the National Archives Catalog. I've navigated us here over to the missions page. Unlike other transcription programs, ours is directly within and fully integrated in our catalog. So our catalog was developed first, and then we added the ability to tag, transcribe, and comment on those records. The great thing about developing our program this way was we already had millions of digitized objects scanned and ready to go. We need your help because scans of handwritten and typed words within those records are often not picked up by an OCR search of the file. When you transcribe, you type exactly what you see in a document, which makes the content searchable by the catalog search engine. In our tagging missions, we're asking you to add keywords that describe the record. When you look at a photograph, add keywords about what you see in the image beyond what is found in the title. Missions featured here on this page are groups of records that we've gathered together on a particular subject. You can pick a topic that interests you, and it'll bring you right to those records in our catalog, where once you're logged in, you can start transcribing. We also have a Don't Leave Us Hanging mission. This is an important part of our dashboard. It contains records that are almost, but not quite, finished being transcribed. We want to encourage you to check out these records and complete unfinished work. Further down on this page, we have special featured missions. Currently, we're highlighting the World War I centennial. Below that, we have individual records we call featured records, one-offs that are not part of a mission but might be of interest to you. We monitor these missions during the work week, removing items from them that have been completed, so you should only have to advance through a few descriptions to find something to work on. If you're new to the program or you're looking for tips, we've created a resources section on our Citizen Archivist dashboard that provides how-to guides and step-by-step videos, including anatomy of a description and how to download records. This page can be found on the left side of the Citizen Archivist section. Now let's take a look at how you can contribute to the catalog. Here's an item in the catalog. It's an account book of George Washington. Do you see the little blue tags on the thumbnails? This means there's been a contribution by a citizen archivist to that page. Let's click on the blue box that says View Add Contributions and take a look. For this example, I've navigated over to page 15. You could see that the user has added 2 tags, names of people found on that page. Tags are words, short recognized phrases that can help people identify what they find on a particular page. You just type it into the box and click enter. We navigate over to the word comment, and you can see that someone has added a comment, and this is where we encourage volunteers to add additional information that might enhance the understanding of a record. In this example, it's an explanation of the abbreviations used in the record and is very helpful. I'm going to go over to the transcribe section. This final section, transcribe, is a free text box that we ask you to type what you see. The format isn't important to us. Transcribe how you think it looks best and how it would be easy for another researcher and a computer doing a search to understand. So for us, the most important thing, the part of transcription are the words, not the format. Once you transcribe something, those words are now picked up by a search in our catalog, making this record even more accessible. You're probably wondering how you can transcribe something so small. Well, we have a zoom function. You can click on the record to make it bigger. You can drag it around with your mouse to see more of the record. This is available in the regular view of the record, not just in the transcription area. And you can make it even bigger. You can really find some really fun gems in these records if you zoom in and look around. So with this illustration, I want to explain how tagging of images work. The title of this photo is Alabama's Coastal Connection, Strolling Along the Eastern Shore Trail. It's a good title, but does it really tell you everything that's happening in this image? What if you were searching for a photo of a footbridge? Would this photo come up in a search by the title alone? No, it wouldn't, and that's where tagging comes in. We ask volunteers to identify everything they see in an image and add them in as tags. Here's an example of what I found in the photo, and I highlighted the features for this slide in dialog bubbles. Now in the real description here, I typed the words on the left side in that box that says Enter New Tags. About an hour after I've added them, the catalog will have re-indexed and those words will now be searchable. You can click on a link, click on one of those tags and it becomes a link and it brings you to all the other records that have been tagged with that word. So if I clicked on grandmother, here's our photo that we've tagged and many others that have been tagged with grandmother. Back to Meredith to talk about the National Archives catalog.
To finish up, I wanted to mention a few ways we're communicating with researchers about the catalog and our crowdsourcing projects. About 2 years ago, we launched an email newsletter, and you can sign up and subscribe on our website. We reach almost 65,000 registered users and citizen archivists through this newsletter. Every 2 weeks, we highlight something about the catalog, newly available records, or our citizen archivist program. This particular newsletter shown in this screenshot was a feature we did on the anniversary of D-Day, where we featured records and photographs in the catalog related to D-Day. We also love to hear feedback about what we feature, what you'd like to see more of, and what you're finding useful. If you have an idea or a suggestion, please contact us. You can email us at catalog@nara.gov. Another resource we want to mention is called History Hub, which is a support community managed by the National Archives for researchers to ask questions and talk to other researchers and archivists. On History Hub, you'll find both researcher to researcher and researcher to archivist communication and collaboration, where anyone can work together to share information and help with research questions. As you browse the content on History Hub, you might find that someone has the same type of question as you. You can browse content by group or topic areas. For example, we have a group for genealogists, one for military records, one for American Indian records, and more. So you can either read questions and answers asked in that particular group, or you can jump in and contribute to the conversation, or you can start a brand new discussion or question. The goal of History Hub is not to be National Archives-centric, but to be a place for history discussion, referrals, and help. As community managers, Suzanne and I participate in History Hub. We're the community managers of this transcribers group, which is a place for transcribers to virtually meet each other, share tips and strategies, find new challenges, and get support for your work. We answer questions and share opportunities for new missions in our Citizen Archivist program. We see what topics people are interested in, and it helps to shape ideas for new missions or newsletter topics. So we hope that this has been a helpful introduction to our catalog and our Citizen Archivist program, and we welcome hearing from you. You can email us anytime at catalog@nara.gov. We're here to help you navigate the catalog and to help answer any questions you have. And we're happy to take questions right now.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction to the catalog. So this is Andrea, and I've got a few questions queued up that were asked as you were speaking, so think back about your slides. Not all of these are how to use the catalog, so be ready. The first question I got was...
We aren't the catalog, so we might not have every answer.
Right.
But we can always email back.
Yes, some of these are records related.
Okay.
For instance, would these Civil War records have death records of those who died during the war?
I don't know that answer, but the reference staff would. So you want to look at those records and slide down to the context, and that would probably be Archives 1 reference staff, and there's an email to be able to email them and ask your question directly.
Perfect. So they should use the catalog and reference the information there when asking their questions.
And if they don't know where to look in the catalog, you can always email us at catalog@nara.gov.
Thank you for
We can
that.
point you in the right direction.
Wonderful. So our next question, when using the catalog to prepare for a visit to NARA in Washington, D.C., what should we make note of in order to pull the physical records once at the archives for records not digitized?
You could always use the National Archives identifier number. That's the NAID that we were referring to. So if you find a description in the catalog that has that NAID, you can make note of that. There's also an HMS number or any sort of numbers that you see in the catalog description. The more information you have, the better. You can always print out a copy of the record description or copy those things down and bring it with you to the reference staff, and that will help you.
Yeah, the thing to remember too is look to see if they're accessible, that they're not restricted. Some might be very fragile and can't be shown to the public. There might be, you want to check the size of it too to make sure so you know what to expect if you're coming for 2 hours and it is 10,000 boxes. You need to know what to expect. Also look at in the contact section, see where it's located, because even if you just think Washington, D.C., we have College Park, Maryland and Washington, D.C., they're about a 40-minute shuttle ride apart, so you want to know where they are to plan your day.
Yeah, it's always helpful to contact the reference staff ahead of your visit when you want to visit, just so that they know you're coming and what you want to see to make sure those records are available to you.
Yeah, you don't need to make an appointment, but what you need to do is, if you have specific questions, you might want to talk to them. Plan ahead. It could take up to more than 3 weeks to get a response back if you have a very detailed question.
Fair enough. Thank you. And I know that we have several pages online on how to prepare. If you didn't capture everything what they just said, you can always go to our webpage at archives.gov under research and learn how to get prepared for your physical visit to a National Archives facility. And our next question, how do I find out if records corresponding to this index still exists? Subject index to correspondence and case files of the Immigration and Naturalization Service. They give a date series, but generally, how do you know if an index still exists?
Well, we don't know just from that to be able to tell you. You can search our catalog. You can also send an email to us at catalog@nara.gov, and we can point you to the right direction. And the reference staff would be able to tell you. Sometimes it's the reference staff that has to answer that question.
Okay, I'm looking to see if there's any more questions from our online audience.
We answered everything they need to know.
Right, you did such a good job. I'm looking back to make sure that we're fairly responding to everybody. Oh, we did get another question. Can you give me some guidance about searching people who worked on military bases but were not in the military? And before you answer, I referred that person back to our 2015 Genealogy Fair, where we had a really good presentation by Brian McGraw on personnel records. So that might answer the question, but searching for people who worked on military bases but were not military personnel.
Yeah, well, we have not only do we keep military records, but we keep federal personnel records, and those are housed in St. Louis, and you can find those on our website. You have to request those, and you can get their file. Depends on how old they are, because there are privacy concerns. So it's about prior to 1955, that's about the date that those are open to the public, and anything more recent would be for the federal employee or next of kin. All that information is on the website, and that would be a great presentation to look at too.
Yes, thank you. So it looks like that will conclude our questions. I don't see any more online, but if I missed you, and I apologize, please send your questions to catalog.nara.gov. Thank you very much, ladies. That was very informative.
Great, we look forward to seeing your emails.
Wonderful.